This year I've been on set about 100 days, and a lot of the times that's a different client on back-to-back shoot days, sometimes in the same week. To make sure nothing falls through the cracks, your pre-production has to be buttoned up, and a lot of the times that requires really good tools and processes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's dive right in and start with point one, which is scouting and apps. In the commercial world, a lot of the times if you're shooting a mid to larger size commercial, you're going to have the ability to scout. Now, if you've never been on a scout, essentially what it is you go to the locations and you get to find your camera angles and then address any problems that you might find on set. A really common problem that you might run into at a location is faulty power. So a lot of the times I'm taking a tester with me just to make sure that all the plugs that I want to use are there. And whenever I'm looking at power, I also look at the distance that it is from where I might want to put a light, so I make sure that I have all the stingers that I need for the lights that we're going to be bringing. Now, to avoid getting into the weeds, let's talk about a few apps that I've found that are really handy whenever scouting. The first being Artemis Pro. Essentially what Artemis is it's the ability to emulate the sensor size and lenses that you'll be using on the set. That way, whenever you're trying to find and shop your shot, you're able to look through an emulated camera viewfinder, which will get you really close to what you'll be seeing on the day of set. The second app that I love is an app called Sunseeker, and it's really cool because it plots the sun according to where you're at, and then it integrates the camera view so you're able to see kind of where the sun arcs. Something else that's really cool in Sunseeker is you're able to change the date, so if you're scouting for something that might be in a month or two, you're able to see where the sun will be in the next month. And then the third app that I love is an app that I developed, and that's called CineTemp. CineTemp is a quick way to calculate the white balance of a room. When I developed the app, I developed it for more tourism and documentary work, but I've used it on almost every set since I developed it. For me as a DP, a lot of the times I like to embrace the natural light that's there, remove light, or just add something subtle. And so if I know what the general white balance of the room is, I know what fixtures I want to bring in and try to help dial in the light that's already existing in the room. Now, coming in 2.0, which should be released this week or next week, we will also be able to calculate the ND needed for a given scene. Now, let's jump into point two, which is visualization and mood. A lot of the times, whenever you're on a scout or you're in pre-production, the director will have a mood in mind. And typically, a lot of the times, they will have some inspiration that goes along with that. For me, after I know the product that we're shooting, and then the director tells me the mood and the style that we're going for, I jump on an app called FrameSet. Now, FrameSet is the partial sponsor of today's video, but it's an app that I genuinely use almost every project, and I've paid for years, so it's really cool to be partnered with them. I'll talk you through FrameSet really quick, and then we'll jump on to point three. For me, FrameSet is essentially a collection of inspiration. It's a place that I go to find inspiration for different shots. You're able to type in full sentences and find shots that way, but you're also able to sort by color, frame size, by shot type, time of day, and many other parameters. As my dad told me when I was younger, there's no reason to recreate the wheel. Everything new under the sun has already been done. You just want to put your own spin on it. So for me, whenever I'm looking for inspiration, I'm just looking for something that sparks that idea. And FrameSet's the place that I go. So when I'm looking for inspiration for a project, I save them all to a custom folder. And then once I complete that folder, I share that with the crew, the director, and then we dial in the look from there. After we gather all of our inspiration, then we create a shot list. And then we work with the producer to create a schedule, and then finally a call sheet and send that out to the crew. And now once all of our shot list and everything is dialed in, then we move on to point three, which is gear planning. Now, after our shots are dialed in, that kind of indicates what gear we're going to need for a different shoot. For a majority of my shoots, my base truck stays pretty similar. I've got a lot of my standard lights on there, but there is some specialty equipment that I bring on from time to time. So basically what my process looks like is every time before a shoot, I either work directly with the director or the producer, I walk through the script, and if there's something that's not on my truck, I make sure that I add it to the truck and I pull it out of my storage. For example, a lot of the times I don't keep my Dana dolly on the truck because of the space that it takes, but if there's a shot that needs a slider, of course I'm going to add the Dana dolly to the kit. And then if there's a crash cam or a gimbal style shot, I'll add the FX3 to the truck because a lot of the times right now I'm shooting on the Burano. And that's a benefit of the Sony ecosystem right now is the ability to have different cameras that fit different style shots. Like if we have a gimbal camera, FX3 is going on, but if we have a lot of handheld or slider, then the Burano is going on. And then if we're shooting cinema primes, I need to make sure that the follow focus is there, the matte box and the filters, etc. So what I do is I think through all of the shots, the style of shots that we're using, the lenses that we're using, and then I try to prep the truck from there, which brings me to point four, and that's prepping the truck. Now, whenever we're prepping the truck, A lot of the times it comes down to organization, and that's what helps us move faster on the day of actual shooting. For me, I have a pretty standard layout. I have my C-stands here, I have my cart here, and on my cart I have a lot of my grip gear, a few lights, some rags, etc. Now what changes a lot of the times is what I have on top of my C-stands. Like right now I have an 8x, and then I have tripods and some soft boxes, etc. And then on the front of the van it changes as well. Sometimes I'll have a poly cart up there, but then sometimes I'll have two of the Godox 600 buys up there with a new collapsible cart that I just picked up off of Amazon. We'll see if it holds up. Now for pre-production, especially when you're shooting back to back, everything needs to be simple and almost a unified system. It needs to be efficient. So what I've done is I've installed a magnetic power splitter in my van, and then we plug everything that needs to be charged that night into the ceiling of the van, and then I just plug that one cord in. From there, then I walk through the checklist of everything that needs to be prepped for the next day. A lot of the times whenever we're running from back-to-back shoots, I'll think through it at lunch of what needs to be on the van for the next day so that I don't forget anything, and I just create a simple checklist on my phone's notes app. The last thing I want to do is talk through a few things that have helped me along the way. Now this tip is related to production and pre-production in a way, but unfortunately there's been times where I forgot media, so now what I'm doing is leaving a few cards or a couple cards for the different cameras that I have inside of the truck. That way if there's a time where I forget the media after I offload it at my desk, then at least I have something that we can shoot on. A lot of the times for clients, it's their one shoot day of the year, but for us, we do it every day. So it's really important for us as filmmakers, DPs, grips, whatever it is, to prioritize getting the correct amount of rest and not pushing our bodies too far. And then the last thing is just to make sure that you offload your media directly after you shoot. That way you don't have an uh-oh or mini heart attack moment on the next set that you're on if you realize that you forgot to offload it. I've heard from and seen other filmmakers forget to offload footage from a shoot, and then sometimes they've lost an entire shoot, which is obviously no good, and that's going to create a lot of problems for quite frankly everybody that was involved. So that's my general pre-production playbook that I use on every commercial set. If there was any tips that I didn't mention that you think I should have, or you have any thoughts or questions, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments below. My name's Keaton. I'm sharing my journey and what I've learned along the way. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue growing together, consider subscribing. This is just the beginning of the conversation.